Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay. Never comes again, another day like yesterday. Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay. I am going to talk through an episode in line with my desire to get back into posting episodes more often. And what that means is sometimes they're not quite as cooked, or, I'm just coming in the morning and I happen to have a cancellation and an idea has been in my mind and I'm just like, I'm just running with this in line with J.S. Wonders, right? For thinkers, wonders, and wanderers who are seeking, who are craving an open intellectual space to explore. And this is something I have struggled with my entire life. And I know from talking to other people that there are many, many, many people who struggle with this. In fact, this is related to the Dunning-Kruger effect. If I got the name right, if I remember correctly, the Dunning-Kruger effect is the challenge that highly intelligent and perceptive people have, that because they're intelligent and they understand the complexity of reality and they understand how easy it is for our brains to get tricked, and they understand how easy it is to have emotional biases, highly intelligent and perceptive people will be very careful about assertively stating an opinion about something. Whereas people who, you can just say it in common parlance, who are dumb, or if you want to be more scientific about it, who lack perception, lack insight, lack the intellectual wiring to really be aware of what's going on, will speak with great confidence from a very simple-minded point of view, and people will actually believe them because they sound so convinced of what they're saying, and they suffer from this conviction that they know so many things, they're right about so many things, when in fact what they suffer from is a lack of the understanding of how complex things are, right? So the Dunning-Kruger effect, where intelligent, insightful people will speak with less confidence. They'll be afraid of asserting themselves because they know that knowing anything for sure is not sure. And where people who lack perceptiveness and intellectual capabilities will be very confident and speak very confidently about complex things because they're just not smart enough to understand the complexity of the situation, right? And so I'm going to take what is essentially that concept and describe what I've struggled with my entire life, which I think I'm beginning to resolve for myself, and what I know many, many people struggle with. And I see a lot of people struggle with this in therapy, which is essentially, there's a trap that empathetic people get caught in. And let's say if you're truly empathetic, you have a refined sensitivity to other people's body language, their emotional states, their stories, their narratives, their psychology, et cetera, and that's fairly normal. It's not like you know everything, but you know that you don't know everything, and you know when you're going into a situation where you're not really aware and you haven't gotten to know people well enough, or you don't understand the situation well enough to have a really refined response to the situation. But the truth is you're really paying attention, and that's a deep instinct. And paying attention allows you to see patterns. Let me give you some concrete example. Let's say there's a group of people, they're all drinking, having fun, they're friends, and so the boundaries come down, the masks come off, and someone starts telling a fairly risque sexual joke about maybe men's erectile dysfunction or something, whatever it is. And there'll be some other couple in the group that goes kind of quiet. And you'll see the man squirming and shifting a little bit. Like, you can see really subtle things where someone who has a calm body state will all of a sudden start picking their nail, And unempathetic and people who lack perception are just like, oh my God, like people pick their nails seriously. But the problem is all of this stuff is blindingly obvious for most people. It's not that someone picks there might be someone who picks their nail because they're just always kind of overdriven and anxious and kind of hyper. But if this is someone that this empathetic person is known and is generally has a calm demeanor and a calm physical state, and then the moment this person starts telling a joke about erectile dysfunction, and both this other man and his wife get kind of uncomfortable, and the wife's looking elsewhere, or maybe even tries to distract, and is like, oh, do we really need to tell that joke? And the man's picking his thumbnail. The empathetic person is like, I don't know for sure what's happening, but there's a high likelihood that they're having some sexual issues in their marriage, and this joke is hitting a little too close to home and they're getting uncomfortable. Okay, so let's sort through a couple things where society goes wrong, which is not really the point of this episode, but let's sort through a couple things. Immediately, because the ultra left wing has become so hyper reactive about everything, like anything that you feel, anything that happens, anything that isn't exactly aligned with political correctness, there's these massive temper tantrums and rage and a demand that the person who did it commit hara-kiri and lose their job, right? And so this is incredibly toxic and in fact lacks empathy. What's interesting is about the extreme left wing is they're always accusing people of lacking empathy, but their extreme intense emotional temper tantrums severely lack empathy because they contribute nothing. They contribute nothing to the victim. They contribute nothing to the person who might be able to learn something from the situation. All it is just a child having a temper tantrum, right? So in that situation, truly empathetic people are not like, maybe if the joke is really off color or if it's racist, a truly empathetic person probably should step in and go, whoa, like, slow down, dude. Like, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, but I don't think I don't want to hear this joke. Like, whatever, I don't want to harsh or mellow, but whatever, right? So that you might need to. But in that situation where that couple has a private experience that they're really struggling with and feeling really uncomfortable, and the man feels really ashamed and blah, blah, and this joke is just landing too close to home. This is not like if this is a bunch of friends having fun and they're drinking, and for Christ's sake, like you want to have fun sometimes and get let down a little bit and tell a risque, like you can't just go around, monitoring and managing everyone's thoughts and verbalizations and like you're going to create something that completely lacks empathy. And when the extreme left does that, they create this extremely fascist, emotionally suppressive, abusive, judgmental system that isn't actually empathetic. It's just a temper tantrum and a hyper reaction to the fact that humans are human, we're fucked up, we do things that hurt each other, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So in that situation, I'm not saying that everyone should be empathetic and that we should enact this policy and go, hey, like, I don't want to point anything out, but I think not everyone in the group is comfortable. Like, no, like if it's a joke about ED, like what the fuck ever, lighten up. But also being aware, right? So an empathetic person in that situation might kind of peel off and just start talking about some random subject with that couple to give them something to do, just out of kindness and generosity. They're uncomfortable. And it also, like, let the joke happen, let everyone laugh. But if people keep cycling on the same topic, the empathetic person might stop laughing, start talking to that couple about baseball, about whatever, and give them a chance to select, reground, get into a different, right? That's not even hard for empathetic people. Like, that's normal. Folks who are empathetic have developed that as a response to situations, or they might just step back and just see what's happening and choose not to do anything about it and go, well, I'm really tired. I'm not going to task myself. Hopefully that couple can get help, and hopefully, they can work it out or set a boundary if they're really uncomfortable. right? Just being empathetic doesn't make you responsible for everyone else's emotional experience. But let's bring it back to what empathetic people are uncomfortable about. Empathetic folks look at, so there are people in that group that are absolutely clueless. There are people who might be kind of aware that that couple is sort of like, oh, yeah, I caught that. Yeah, they may be uncomfortable, but they're not super empathetic. Or they're just like, whatever. Or they've been taught like not to have a higher sensitivity or have a responsiveness to that. They're like, yeah, who cares? Whatever. I feel like joking around and having a drink. They might even participate in the joke and keep it going. Like they don't care, whatever. And people have done that with them. So they've been trained to dull their sensitivity to it. And I don't have a super strong opinion about that because we're talking about something where no single group or person gets to set the sensitivity level. Like it's going to constantly and forever till the end of time be a conversation between kind people who choose to respect that there are different kinds of people with different sensitivities, right? But they're the people who kind of see the picking of the thumb, who are like, oh my God. No, they're not. Like sometimes, okay, you lack perception. Whatever, like it's not hard to see. And it might be true sometimes that overly empathetic and sympathetic people, or people who become codependent, feel like they always have to do something about it, create a problem. And you're not responsible for the fact that they create a problem. But those people who have that assertion, like, oh my God, sometimes people are just who just don't see that there's this pattern that guy typically doesn't do that. He typically doesn't get uncomfortable and pick his fingernails. He's not an anxious person in general. And clearly this started right at the joke, and also the wife tried to sort of distract for a moment and then sort of looked down and looked uncomfortable. Like all this shit adds up to anybody paying attention. But there are these people who are just like, oh my God, no, right? And then there are people who are stunningly obtuse, where it starts pushing into the range of what we call narcissistic, where they've almost willfully trained themselves to not see anyone else's needs, but they'll be all about their needs, right? If they're offended by something or if they're uncomfortable, they're all about it. But other people's like, what are you talking about? Oh my God, like I didn't know. What are you like? Swear to God, it's like you're making this shit up. So here's the conundrum for empathetic people. Here's the conundrum for people who choose nonviolence. Here's the conundrum for highly intelligent people who struggle in the Dunning-Kruger effect, where unintelligent people are just straight out stupid people, will say asinine, completely uninformed things and create all kinds of jackassery just because they're confident, because they don't pay enough attention to know that they don't know shit about anything, right? So we have this issue that empathetic people know that being empathetic is not just being a kinder person, it's actually being more aware and seeing what's happening, seeing what you see. You don't have to be a kind person. Just see what you see. Just know, like, pay attention to other people and their patterns and how they present, and you're going to see this stuff, right? And so empathetic people, we can have this frustration with people who lack empathy, which in my opinion is a lack of intelligence and a lack of perceptiveness and a lack of an ability to process information in a meaningful way about what other people are experiencing and what's going on, and taking in a much greater density of data points that can give you a picture where it's like, oh, this is pretty obvious that that's what's going on in the situation, right? It's a made-up situation, but I just made it up. And so empathetic people are like caught, because if you go with your frustration and go, let's say your friend is the one who tells a joke and is a totally obtuse and just is that kind of person, and later you mention it to them, hey man, I think so and so couple didn't appreciate it, they might be having trouble, blah blah. And the person's like, oh my God, that's so like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're all having drinks. They seem to be laughing, blah. And you know that this dude's wrong, dead wrong, just completely lacks the perceptiveness to see anything other than what he wants to see. Right? There are lots of people like that, and it's called narcissism. And we all have some level of narcissism. So the empathetic person gets caught in this conundrum. The natural human instinct at some point is to be like, you know, dude, actually, you're just really stupid. I believe you. You actually don't see it, but what you don't understand is you're dumb. You so severely lack perception that you're incapable of being aware of and seeing what other people are experiencing. And I'm not saying you should be responsible. I'm not saying you should not have told the joke or that you should stop. What I'm saying is you're a fucking idiot. You do this all the time. Like you have no perception of anything outside of yourself, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so then what happens with the empathetic person? They're like, I'm angry at that person because they have a dullness and they lack a sensitivity and they don't see other people and they don't care about how other people receive and experience things. And what have I done? Now I'm insulting and verbally abusing that person. I'm insulting them to their face. I'm calling them names, calling them stupid, all of the things that I might accuse him of doing because he lacks a feeling for and a perception of other people, I'm now doing to him. And so empathetic people go, oh, I can't do that because then I become him. I'm being cold and cruel and he's a human being. And if I'm truly empathetic and kind and wise, which is what I hope I can be, I hope I can channel that, I want to be that. And if I let go of my ego and I stay humble and don't become arrogant, how am I in this position of insulting someone else to their face? And so the empathetic people will solve that problem by going, hey dude, like I don't want to like act like I know everything, like we should all be humble, and maybe my perception is wrong, maybe I'm reading something into the situation, but I think that couple was uncomfortable, just something to pay attention to. I really like your jokes, dude, you're fucking hilarious, I like hanging out with you, just something to think about. Okay, that's kind, that's empathetic, it's respectful, it honors that this guy has a genuine skill, he's genuinely funny, like he might get off course sometimes and blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's the frustrating thing for empathetic people. There are some people in the middle who are empathetic but have dulled it or had it dulled for them through experiences, and they'll hear that and they'll feel it and they'll get, oh, this person is offering me a view to something kinder, stronger, more beautiful, and wiser, and I'm going to have the humility, I'm going to listen and go, you know what? Yeah, that might have been happening. That's something for me to watch. I'm going to take that under advisement because I think I can work on that. And I may have had experiences that encouraged me to dull my sensitivity to other people. Okay, that's great. But you know, there are a lot of people further obtuse, less intelligence, less awareness, or sometimes it's almost like it's a willful lack of awareness because they're like, fuck it, I don't care. I don't want to worry about how other people feel. Who are going to mock and make fun and who will only read and see what you're saying as funny. Oh my God, like seriously? Seriously, we're all out having drinks and I tell a funny joke and you're like, oh, you're uncomfortable. Like, I bet they're having sexual, like, fuck, dude. How big of a pussy are you? You're gonna get those and it will continue and they'll mock you and they'll see you as weak and they'll see you as stupid. And then there will even be people who'll be like, yeah, I know they were uncomfortable, but I don't give a shit. Like I'm hard charging, I'm aggressive, and I'm a winner. Okay, so let's expand it from empathy to, say, violence versus nonviolence. Nonviolent folks can get frustrated because it's like, I believe in nonviolence and I can be nonviolent, but there are some people who just think that's funny. And they're like, great, I'll smack the shit out of you in front of your wife and kids. And everybody will know I'm the alpha male. Now, most of us know that guy is a fucking moron and toxic and destructive to society. But in the short term, you can't prove he's wrong because he's doing what he wants and you're protesting like that's not fair and you're not being, blah, blah. Like to them, all they hear is like, wah, 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 poor me. I don't have the balls to stand up for myself. That's all they hear. I know because I grew up in that kind of culture. You can't come and be like, what you're doing is not fair, blah, blah. You better be prepared to be like, dude, I will beat your fucking ass. Maybe I win, maybe I lose, but I'm going to make you miserable. Like, if this is going to be one of the worst experiences of your life, I don't give a shit. You're going to have to kill me. There's no other way, because if that person is a toxic, relentless bully, right? The Democrats have this problem with Trump. Like any protestation about that's immoral, that doesn't abide by the, oh my God, guys, my brain is so mushy today. By the Constitution, he's not following he thinks it's fucking funny. It's like, way. Like he mocks you. And you never understand that you cannot whine to people who don't give a shit about how you feel about things. Right? So we see this all the time. Like, if a violent person doesn't perceive your lack of violence and kindness and neutrality and setting of boundaries as respectable, if they're just like, so I just get to do what I want to do. Fuck you. You don't have the balls to fucking man up and fight me, then okay, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to grab your girlfriend's ass. What are you going to do? She's not going to kick my ass. You're not going to kick my ass. What are you going to do? There are lots of people like that in the world where it's like, so again, the empathetic people, the nonviolent people, we have this disease where we're like, well, I'm going to keep doing this until someone notices and they'll really see, and I'm being the change I want in the world. Man, shut up. There are people who don't give a shit and don't believe in your system. And I believe you. I came from that culture. Now, I've always been deeply empathetic, but I was also trained in that culture of masculine aggression, and the better man is a stronger man, is a more violent man. Like, well, I was raised in that. And I've had many, many people be kind and assertive to me across my life. And I felt ashamed of what I'd said and how I'd talked. I'll give you an example. I still struggle with, but I used to struggle with such intense social anxiety. It was off the charts. I could literally like open my shirt and look, and I could see my heart pounding against my sternum, like moving, and so much adrenaline and cortisol that I could barely function. And I spent probably a decade training myself to function in spite of that, like sharpening my prefrontal cortex and strengthening it until I could make some intelligent comments and blah, 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 and I could just basically do my job. And I was doing a teacher training, meaning I was a teacher in training. And so they put you through all of these uncomfortable exercises, and they have the other teachers pretend to be students, and teachers are the fucking worst, man, because they take all the worst behavior they've ever experienced, and they all do it at once. And you're supposedly supposed to sit there and like, what are you going to do? Like establish classroom discipline, whatever. It's wild. It was really funny. But needless to say, right, if I'm like going into the hall and pretending to come up with a mock lesson that I'm going to practice in front of, like the the discomfort is so intense that it was prohibitive for me. And I would often, after, if I had to do a week of that or something, I would go home suicidal because it would wear me down so badly that my nervous system would collapse. I'd go into severe depression, and it was like, how am I going to get through life, right? So to a certain extent, I'm qualifying my behavior because I behaved in a way that I'm not proud of. But just to give you an example, I was super, super uncomfortable and sort of like didn't know what to do. And we were in a group supposed to come up with, and I just jokingly, talking about discipline was like, like sometimes kids need 5 across the eyes, blah, blah, the Al Bundy thing, 5 across the eyes, like a backhand across. Now, I didn't really believe that, but I was acting out of intense fear and social discomfort and feeling of shame. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And a couple of the other teachers just kind of looked at me like, they weren't going to be like, dude, what the fuck are you saying? But from their expression, they were like, I'm not participating in that comment, even as a joke. And they're right. It was just my discomfort where I said something flippant and is in fact abusive of children, like never smack a child across the face. It's not even really funny, right? But I would feel ashamed and recognize that they had a moral authority and an emotional maturity. And I would recognize, oh, I said what I said because I was feeling so intensely uncomfortable. And I was backing into some bullshit behavior to try to alleviate my distress. And kids don't deserve that. And my colleagues don't deserve to have to okay, like you're not funny. What's the point? I'm contributing nothing. And so over decades, I was able to learn and emotionally evolve because I could see their emotional maturity and I was able to take that in. There are lots of people who don't see it and they're not going to evolve and they think it's funny and they get rewarded. Again, Trump is one of those people where it's like, he's made millions of dollars. He's bullied people. He's taken advantage of people. He's raped underage girls and gotten away with it and gotten elected the president twice. You think he's going to have a come to Jesus moment and be like, oh my God, like these people are being kind and empathetic and respectful of me. And what am I doing? Like, how could I? No, he's riding that fucking thing till the day he dies. And there are lots of people like them. They're all coming out of the woodwork now. Right? Like they're all coming out of the woodwork now. Because he's entitling them, and they were always there. Trump didn't create them. They were always there. They've just been empowered and entitled. So again, there are people who are committed, almost willfully committed to their lack of empathy because it has worked for them. There are people who are committed to their verbal violence and bullying and their violence because they have been rewarded for it and it has worked for them. Dumb people who lack perception and have all this confidence often get elected or get promotions and become CEOs because there are enough people who are confused who are like, well, they seem really confident and they don't get scared and they don't get worn out by worrying about what people in the room think. And, you got to break a few eggs and blah, blah, blah. And those people will just be this tank that just rolls over people in situations because they don't even see how the situation went wrong. This used to infuriate me about my father, who actually was highly perceptive, but he had been raised in such a brutal environment that he had committed for most of his life, or most of what I knew of him, he had committed to that jackassed, super dismissive, condescending male, like, well, you got what you deserve. Like, well, I'll cry about it. That kind of crap, even though he was genuinely, like if I biologically inherited, because my mom doesn't have any empathy at all. If there's genetic predisposition to empathy, it came from him. He's very perceptive and empathetic. It just got twisted badly. But it used to infuriate me because he was so proud of the fact that he could push things forward and he could piss people off. And he used to brag about the fact that, there are people in this town that, makes them sick seeing me go, like they'll cross the street. And he was bragging about it. They'll cross the street if they see me, because he's just like, I fuck situations up and I make things happen. If I guess you're so weak that you can't handle that. Well, he's proud of himself. And he committed to that for most of his life. I think as he got older, he genuinely started becoming kinder, and he softened up and he became more spiritual and kinder, which is to his credit. But what happens with those people, or people who are genuinely stupid, who my father wasn't, because they don't see the subtle ways and certain energies or certain cause and effect that are not as obvious, can be used and leveraged to get really beautiful outcomes, because everything is just, if all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail, right? Their outcomes, as far as they're concerned, always reflect what they expected to get, which they interpret as them succeeding and being right about what the situation is. And so what my dad would do is I would argue with him and get really mad and be like, well, if you do that, blah, 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 why would you do that? And you're hurting those people's feelings and blah, blah, blah. He would just laugh because he was a very assertive person, and he would just do shit and set shit up and push it forward. And the fact that he could do that and roll over people and blah, 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 and then just have a product or something at the end, he'd be like, see, you're full of shit. You're not successful. I'm successful. Right? Because those people get outcomes that validate to them, because they can't see anything else, that validate to them that they succeeded. Be more scientific about it. Me stuttering on S's is something that's developed in the last 5-10 years. I've always had super crisp diction. And I think it's just like fatigue and age and like whatever. And my daughter stutters, and she stuttered. I don't know what it is, but I tend to absorb things from people, especially if I love them. And I've developed, when I'm tired, the stutter on S. Not very pronounced, and I never had it, never in my childhood, never. I've always had super rapid, like machine gun fast, highly enunciated ability to speak with a lot of vocabulary and blah, blah, but whatever. Anyway, be more scientific about it and say, if someone only perceives the color blue, and this situation has not just a full spectrum of visible light, but also infrared and, the other electromagnetic things and those things are available to manipulate and to use in a situation to get very complex outcomes. Maybe one of those complex outcomes is actually you learn how to use one of the frequencies to transport people from place A to place B within seconds with very little energy. But the person who sees blue is like, well, I can take this blue and I can cut down all these trees and I'll make these blue lines and we'll make these vehicles that will drive between these blue lines, and I'll pave this road as blue and you'll get from here to there. And if there are other people who are like, hey man, there's this other frequency that allows us to teleport without destroying the ecosystem and without painting anything blue, like, oh my God, you're so full of shit. Like, oh, nobody knows what you're talking about. And they'll talk very confidently, and they'll just start working on their project, and they'll cut all the trees down, they'll paint everything blue, and pretty soon there's this road all the way across, this blue road that people drive on, hitting animals and blah, blah, blah. There's nothing, if they're not willing to consider the possibility that they're blind, they just get validated. They have a self-referencing, self-validating system that just keeps telling them, I'm right, and these people are a bunch of whiners and they're full of shit. And the people who see more get left in this position, and this was my position in my family with my dad, where it's like, oh, John's just a whiner. He's just always complaining and, oh, this is blah, 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 and he never gets anything done, because I was constantly in a position of trying to express to my father that it's like, there's more complexity here and a better way to approach a situation. But because he was not going to wait to understand what that was or allow me to work it out, he was just going to blow through the thing and be like, well, I get stuff done. So highly intelligent people then have the Dunning-Kruger effect and also have this fear. We know that dumb people feel really, really certain about everything they think and everything they say. So then when we encounter someone like my father, who was highly intelligent but could be really stupid because he was emotionally so immature, he was so childish, could behave in incredibly obtuse and foolish ways, or people who are genuinely stupid, when highly intelligent people encounter them, we have this self-negating behavior where it's like, well, I'm mad at him because he's an idiot who doesn't see all of the complexity in the situation and what could be done in the situation, that there are far better outcomes, or that it's worth exploring and maybe failing multiple times to get to some outcome that's different than cutting all the trees down and painting a blue line that people drive tanks over and run over deer. I'm just making the scenario up, right? Just when there's a possibility of instantly teleporting with very low energy cost, but it may take some time to work that out. So there are people like Trump who are like, well, I just build everything. And my dad was always like, well, I'm the one who builds everything. Okay, right? And the people who see more complexity and are highly intelligent, we don't want to become the person by going, shut up. You need to sit down and shut up. You ruin everything because you're an idiot and you don't understand the complexity of the situation. You don't understand what's possible. And we want to listen to people who understand the complexity and who understand what's possible in the situation. We don't give a shit if you're right wing or left wing or central, like whatever. If you're ultra rigid about your position or any one party or group or approach being the only way, you're an idiot, right? We know that. But we don't want to become an idiot by being that rigid when we see people who are rigid. So we get caught in this trap of saying, well, we really appreciate and respect your approach and we see that it's effective, and we would really like you to consider that there are other possibilities maybe that you're unaware of. And we would like to, as a society, consider those possibilities and right before you've even finished, they're already working on the project with other people who are like them, laughing at you. And then they finish the project in 6 months and are like, leave it up to them. Nothing would ever get done. We're the ones who get everything done. Yeah, violent people are the most successful at creating an outcome, you dumb shit. Rigid, blind, ignorant energy and behavior and action is the most successful at creating cause and effect outcomes in this reality. That's a fact. But we've had millennia of you motherfuckers fucking shit up and starting wars and destroying environment and signing off on rape and signing off on child molestation. Well, we've had millennia, and we're done listening to your stupid shit and pretending that it's not stupid. So now back to the empathetic people, the nonviolent people, the peaceful people, the people who know that peace is the most powerful position, that ultimately it always prevails, and the highly intelligent people, who are people who are essentially have a self-awareness and awareness of the world and are paying attention. You negate yourself by going, I don't want to be them, therefore I can't speak to them directly and say what's true. Okay, I was raised in the environment I was raised in. My parents were verbally brutal. They didn't rage and scream, but they would say the most incredibly insulting and judgmental things to you and to each other and to people in the community. Incredibly insulting. Like just calm and neutral, as if they're just saying something normal. So I was raised in an environment where, like, where I'm saying, yeah, you're a fucking moron. You're stupid. I grew up with my father saying things like that, ran like totally normal in front of us constantly, driving, talking about people in our church, talking about people in the community, like, and I have the same sickness. You see, I have a total comfort and entitlement to say that. I'm not signing off on that. You let me be me and be as fucked up as I am and as full of shit as I am. And if you want to advise me to change my language, I'm open to that. Come do that. Do it in the comments. Make a phone call. Like what the fuck ever. I'm not. I don't think I'm a successful person for doing that, right? But on my podcast, I entitle myself to just behave the way I behave. So how do you stop negating yourself while not stooping to that level? It's okay to actually say what's true about those people to those people. Don't insult them, don't cuss them out, but don't sit there and demonstrate kind of like you're trying to put on some performance of kindness, like they're going to go, oh my God, I have been wrong all this time. Stop. Especially Democrats. And I think they have. It's like, stop. They don't give a shit. They don't care. Again, I was raised in that kind of a culture. I was that person. If you had come to me in that way in my 20s, I would have fucking laughed in your face. I'm like, good luck with that, you marshmallow. Now I aspire to be a marshmallow. I hope I'm a marshmallow. I hope I melt away to nothing till there's nothing but consciousness left. Okay, so what do? Stop trying to put on a demonstration of what intelligence and perceptiveness looks like. Stop trying to put on some demonstration of nonviolence. You're really doing it from a victim energy and allowing yourself to be victimized to sharpen your rage and your anger to someday entitle you to be violent and to go, well, I have a right. Like, that's all you're doing is every time you allow yourself to be victimized by those kind of people, you're actually sharpening an unconscious rage that you will use someday to entitle yourself to behave violently. You have become them. So what do? It's okay to tell people what's true. Okay. Let's say in my dad's case, right? Who just bulldozed over things to make stuff happen. Systemically, he was smart. He would set up smart systems. It's not like, right? But when he was younger and I was young, he seriously lacked empathy. His response to people getting hurt or struggling with what he was doing was literally to mock them and to feel as if he was so narcissistic that it almost felt like an insult to him, as if they were somehow resisting him, right? He was very, very narcissistic. What you do in that situation is, if it's possible, if they'll stop, you stop, right? If I could have at some point had the wherewithal and the presence of mind to stop my dad and go, stop, shut up. You're going to do whatever you do, but you're going to listen to me first. You seriously lack perception of a lot of things in the spectrum of things that matter. And because you don't see it, and because you're afraid that it matters, you get scared and you bulldoze your way forward and you hurt people and you destroy things and you miss solutions that I may not be aware of and you definitely are not aware of. and you get an outcome, but it's often a far worse outcome. And you will never figure that out. You'll never learn that because you won't stop and consider the possibility that somebody else sees something that you don't. And you are a problem for yourself and for all of us. And if nobody's ever said it before, I'm telling you now, you are a problem. And you create problems for the rest of us. And we choose to listen to some other people. If you're going to be violent and force your way through and destroy anything other than what your idea is, yeah, it's possible that we don't stop. But I'm telling you right now to your face, it's not an indication of being powerful. It's not being masculine. It's not being more intelligent. It's not being more effective. It is, in fact, being less intelligent, less powerful, less effective, and in fact is not leadership. So don't kid yourself about who you're being in this situation. We need to start saying that. Not, you're a fucking idiot. Because he calls people fucking idiots. And all he's doing is, you're using my own, okay, so it's a nuclear war. What, like, big fucking deal. Everything's always a nuclear war, right? Which is why I'm really good at nuclear war. And you're going to lose because I'm better at it than you. And you are going to lose because they are better at it than you because you choose not to be an expert in nuclear war. That's the problem with those people. They choose to be an expert in stupidity and obtuseness and aggression and bullying and anger and judgmentalness of other people. They're an expert. So if you start judging them, they're like, yeah, welcome to my game, dude. Try me. They're Michael Jordan of stupidity. You're not going to win by being confrontational and insulting. And you're not going to win by putting on some, oh, victim me, and oh, look how kind I'm being to you. I can't believe you're acting this way. Like I'm being respectful to you. They think that's funny. Because they hear the plaintive, like, oh, like, because you know you're going to lose. You're just waiting for other people to go, oh my God, you're so good. You were so much more powerful and spiritual. Shut up. We all have to live in this. And sitting there and victimizing yourself on these people is almost worse than just insulting. You just insult them and they're like, there's just another me, and you're just another that person. But at least there's some balls. At least your anger like serves to push back on them a little bit. But when you crucify yourself on their stupidity, you're almost as big a problem as they are. We see this all the time. We're seeing this right now with Trump. He thinks this entire thing is hilarious. You could go tell him a story. You could be like, this woman's been in this country for 30 years. She's raised her kids. Her kids were born here. She contributes. She works at a local bakery. She's a wonderful part of the community. The community loves her. She's married to this man, blah, blah, blah. And you deported her, and these kids have no mother, and they're stressed out. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He thinks that's funny. He thinks that's evidence of how powerful he is, and the fact that it hurts you that you see it happening, he also thinks that's funny. He just sees it as evidence of how powerful he is and that you're a pussy. That's all he sees. And you see all these people, oh my God, like, I can't believe, what kind of person are you? What kind of person? How could you, like, what do you think that does? They thrive on that. That's literally heroin to an opioid addict. There's like, give it to me. Yeah. You're weak. I'm strong. You can't take it. Listen to you complain. Oh, I'm getting shit done. I'm doing what I say should be done. And you have to put up. That's what they do. That's what they feel. That's how they feel. That's how they feel. You think you're doing anything by whining about it? You're not. Okay. Highly intelligent people, highly empathetic people, peaceful people. Empathetic people, you go to that friend who told the joke and just has no perception. This is the move. You don't be like, dude, you're fucking stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, I know, I'm seeing your ego got involved. You are on his territory and he's going to win because he doesn't care and you do. He doesn't care, but you do. And he's going to leverage that. He's going to weaponize the fact that you care. So what do? Accept that he's not the brightest bulb. I go, hey, dude, I got to tell you straight. I like your jokes. You're really funny. But there are ways in which you really are not very perceptive. And you miss things that are super obvious to a lot of other people. And it's funny to watch, but it's embarrassing and you hurt people. The fact that you can't even see it is not a strength. It's a weakness. Don't brag. Because if you brag to me, I know who you are. You're just bragging about the fact that you're weak and less intelligent. Don't do it. I invite you to at least pretend that you're smarter. Pretend, like start noticing, make a practice of it. Or don't, I don't care, but I'm not going to pretend that you're a strong person. You have a serious lack. And I'm telling you to your face. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do with it. You got to do that. You got to do that. Stop being like, oh, I don't want to insult them. What are you talking about? They insult themselves. You can allow what's smart to be smart. You can allow what's empathetic to be empathetic. It is better. It is objectively better. Being intelligent and aware is objectively better. Stop being ashamed of it and stop negating yourself because you're afraid of being them. Don't become totally insulting and lose your temper and be like, they're fucking idiots. And don't crucify yourself on the cross of their stupidity. Just say it kindly in a neutral tone, but factually. You seriously lack perception. A lot of people see this, and you're the person in the room that it's kind of embarrassing because you lack perception. This isn't some like, oh, it's so sensitive, oh, super feel. Like, I'm not worried about those people. I'm not hurt because you told the joke. I'm embarrassed for you because you don't see anything. You don't see things that other people see, and it makes you look silly. And it makes you do poorly in some situations. So pull your head out, dude. That's it. Just say it. Just state it. Violence. What do we do with violence? Because it's no longer about how you say it. It's no longer about your energy. Someone who's violent can punch the Dalai Lama in the face. You might have a very strong leadership and a calmness and a non-judgmental nature. And let's say someone is bullying an immigrant at a store. Some dipshit white person that we see occasionally on the internet, they're so outraged that there are people not them in the world. That there are people, that the world is full of people and 99.9% of them are nothing like them. Oh, they're so outraged. Right? So you see them bullying, and let's say it's a man and he's yoked and he's strong and he's aggressive. And you can have a strong sense of leadership and you can walk up and be like, dude, we're not doing this. Leave this person alone. And you can not be someone who's crucifying them. You're not coming from this energy of like victim energy. And you can not insult them. You're like, what kind of fucking racist piece of shit are you? Like, oh, like you can not do that. And that person can still punch you in the face if you get in the middle of that situation. If you go, no, I'm not allowing this. It's not happening. You guys, you're welcome to stand behind me or do whatever it is you need to do. And I'm addressing you. You're the rot in our community. You're behaving as the rot. We want you in our community, but we're not doing this. You are making yourself the outsider. You are making yourself the immigrant, which is why you're scared in the first place. Because the truth is, you know that the world is full of 99.9% of people who aren't you. So you're scared. You think you're being brave and standing up for a right. You're just being a pussy. Like, that's the state of the world. 99.9% of the people are nothing like me. You want to show that you have balls? Go travel and make friends from other countries and risk being targeted in their countries and learn their languages. You want to have some fucking spine? Okay, now I'm going off on my own rant. But you can stand up to that person and that person can still punch you in the face. So what do you do in these situations? You probably do need to defend yourself. And if someone brings violence with no willingness to let it go, unless it's the police, you're going to have to be aggressive and return violence until the moment you subdue them, and then you stop, right? Because you're not them. When I say unless it's the police, it's like there are lots of police officers who deserve assertiveness and aggressiveness towards them, especially ICE and what's going on now. A bunch of belligerent, aggressive people who have been entitled by a belligerent aggressive presidency. But the reason I say you shouldn't is because it's just going to turn out badly for you. They're going to murder you. They're going to beat you badly and hurt you, and half the country is going to stand by and say that you deserve it. So I'm just saying, for your safety, you can't do that with ICE or police officers or like whatever. Even though there are some who deserve to have someone stand up to them. So with violence, if someone else knows a better way, but you are going to need to defend yourself. Take jiu-jitsu, take Krav Maga. Like, you're going to need, at some point, it's not just about energy. It's not just about stating things assertively and neutrally. There are some situations in which you have to respond with a really skilled level of self-defense. Always self-defense, never aggress, right? So let me come back and summarize the point. Empathetic people, highly intelligent people, and peaceful people have been trapped for a long time because when there are other people who lack empathy, who lack intelligence, and who are stupidly violent, primitively violent for absurd and narcissistic reasons, we have negated ourselves by going, well, I don't want to be like them, so I don't want to insult them or hurt their feelings or imply that what they're doing is dumb or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, guys, knock it off. It is dumb. You don't want to insult them personally, but you can say, man, what you're doing seriously isn't wise. It's not smart. You think that you look smart and powerful, but you don't. You look weak and you look dumb because this is not a smart thing to do. I don't think you're dumb, right? Or, hey, man, you think empathetic people are weak, but actually they see things that are actually happening, and you actually lack perception and lack an ability to interact with things going on around you. So you just end up being a tank that just rolls over things and smashes things and goes, oh, duh, I succeeded. And we all know that you're blind. So we're not going to pretend anymore, and we're not going to participate and pretend that we just have to like demonstrate to you, because you don't see what you don't see. You don't see the frequencies and the spectrum in which there are things that are possible to be done. And all you have is a hammer in your hand. So like, that wine glass is a nail. It isn't. It's not. And there are lots of people who understand and who see you for what you are, as someone who seriously lacks an awareness And you're a problem. You're a problem for yourself and you're a problem for all of us. Knock it off. You can say that. You can say that. It's okay. You don't have to trap yourself and go, well, I don't want to be like them. And so instead, you try to put on some big victim-y demonstration of what empathy is because you think they're going to watch, or even worse, you're doing it as, virtue signaling to other people around because you want them to feel bad for you and you want them to assuage your hurt ego and tell you how good you are. That's some worthless bullshit. There's no value in that. Stop whining to narcissistic people. They don't give a shit. They think it's funny. State what's true firmly and assertively. Don't insult them, but state what's true. They have no idea what's going on, and they create massive problems, and they are a massive problem. They create destruction and misery because they don't see anything other than just some super obvious one-off cause and effect relationship in which they're going to get their narcissistic needs met. It's okay to tell them that. Right now, they're fighting desperately for control because there are a lot of people waking up to their stupidity and their obtuseness and their primitive, their willful marriage to primitive biological nature. A lot of people awake. That's why they're freaking out and becoming absurdly, you saw it under Obama, the level of just overt racism that just came oozing out of the internet when Obama got elected was like, holy shit, these people are scared. You're scared. You're afraid. That's okay. I'm afraid of shit all the time. I just don't start bullying people and act like a dick. Sometimes I do, but I would like to own if I do. That's all that's happening. You're scared. Join the human race. We'll welcome you. We love you. It's okay. Come on, man. If you really want to show you have balls, you have a spine, start opening yourself up to feedback. I did it. I'm still probably an idiot, but I'm working on it. All right, you guys. I got incoming. That's enough for today. Love you guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Just for today, everything's okay. Everything's okay.